if you're a woman that is a leader or like that has, a higher position, we just want to make something straight. We don't want to be men.
For us, we need a kind of reprogrammation, reprogram the mind of like going out of this growing up as being the nice, the quiet, the well-dressed and women, than just, going for it. And if you have something to say, always say, just say it.
Yeah.
Because you know that it's, it will have a positive impact at the end, right?
Yeah.
So it's not saying something just to say something. We're saying something that matters.
Exactly. And I think what's also important, and I think that's quite an interesting conversation that's at least happening a lot in Western Europe at the moment, is around we don't need women to change necessarily. We also need to make our workplaces more friendly to both genders and to different cultures. So it's not like we want to raise women to like be overly loud and talk over other people. It's not around that, right? It's just like that the environment at the moment is quite, in a way, male. And so in order to kind of be heard, sometimes you have to do that. But also there's more and more push within European economies, at least, to kind of be like, well, but also, there's some aspect of what they call toxic masculinity in workplaces. So, kind of signaling I'm doing long work hours, or, I'm always like signaling how well I'm doing, and that they do want to change that. And it should be, coming from both sides, the change. That it's like, you might not need to be the loudest in the room to be acknowledged for what you're doing.
100%.
And I think that's kind of a culture change within the companies. And that's obviously takes longer, but I do think that's important to keep in mind. I don't think all professional women have to adjust to being like stereotypically male businessmen in terms of their communication style.
Exactly. I think, communication and like dressing also, like, and the mindset. We were talking with Hala. She's a common friend. This Hala introduced me actually, Eva, and so we were saying about men and women relationship. If you're a woman that is a leader or like that has a higher position, we just want to make something straight. We don't want to be men.
Exactly.
Okay, we still are women. We want to stay women, right? We don't want to be men. We don't want to take the role of a man. We don't want to take their position. It's just that as women, we came in a package and we need to accept the package, right? And then there is this communication going on with men that needs to be like kind of reassure them in that sense. Like, we're not trying to be men, or like, we don't want to be more powerful than you. We're just, want to be like just who we are, in the workplace, and
exactly.
take it. You can be a quiet woman like you, or like a loud woman like you, but just is take me as I am, especially on the professional side. Normally it's supposed to be more objective, right? Because you're you're judged on your skills, right, and your experience. But on the personal level, I think just knowing yourself, knowing your values, knowing your strength, it's all about self-awareness, and then how you communicate that to people around you also. I think that's super important.
Exactly. And I do think also it's like, to me, it's a mix of, stepping up in the right moments. So like if it's important, you might have to be, out of your comfort zone and saying something more loudly, especially if you're being talked over, or if what happens a lot, what we've heard from a lot of women in our organization, for instance, was, I present ideas, no one really listens, and then someone else presents the same idea a day later, like a man, and then everyone like claps and cheers for it, kind of thing.
Okay.
And so I think it's like using the right moments to be like, nope, I'm not fine with this, and I want my work to be acknowledged. Exactly. But that doesn't mean that I do have to do that 100% of the time. And for instance, my current workplace, it was really nice. I was talking to one of the women working there, and she was like, well, I feel like, I just don't like public speaking. I don't like speaking up. So I feel like, I can't progress. And we were all like, well, but that's not what our workplace is about. We're about, we see that you have great ideas and you don't need to present them in front of 10 people all the time. Right. We see the great work you're doing. And I think it's also, if you feel like that, just having kind of an open conversation with your manager, for instance, and be like, look, I don't like speaking up as much, or I don't like doing this or that, which seems to be a cultural thing in the organization, maybe even, and just having an open conversation, because I think that really makes you be seen and heard by the person that evaluates you or that can then support you. Because I think sometimes you'll be surprised how many managers actually really care and are supportive if you tell them, what you're struggling with at the workplace.
Right. Yeah, yes, of course. I think this, again, fear of bothering someone or saying, oh, no, this is not going to be important, or already, deciding of the outcome, even if the situation didn't happen. I mean, people stop doing that. And women especially stop doing that because it doesn't help you and it's completely wrong for your own, well-being anyway. So we talked about the mindset. We talked about the challenges. Let's talk about the resources that you have, that you got from your experience to manage all these challenges. Like, what do you do so you don't, get crazy at the workplace and still be successful?
Sure. I mean, there's different things. So I think working for the Women in Economics initiative is a great thing because you're working with so many strong women and so many women that face the same challenges that you feel a lot more understood and supported. You also see that people face the same things you face, so the same challenges. And sometimes also, to be honest, if I hear the fifth time that someone tells me that they're being talked over or that they're giving admin tasks while their male peers are, getting more challenging tasks, then that also makes me want to change that more actively. So I think that gives me some power in terms of being a bit more upset. Right. And I do think, so we have a series of events online at the moment, for instance, where we present the work that women economists do. And I think that's really inspiring. And you can see, well, that's something I can do too, or that's something women do. So I really think just listening to other fellow women professionals is something that can be really inspiring and you feel really supported by it.
Environment is 1/3 of your, overall success, whether it's professionally or your well-being. It's so important to be surrounded by the person that are like-minded or just that gonna push you in the right direction. And I think for women, because it's so still rare, right, to have women, for example, in economics, you just gave us some stat, or just having women leaders, that we're still a minority. So we're stronger together, right? And being also with people that are going through the same situation is that you can have a conversation with them and just share your experiences and learn from that. And as you said it, you will realize that you're not alone in this fight. It's not just you. It happens to almost all women. And it's really, I can understand that it gives you some power of knowing, oh, well, I'm not alone. And, knowing that this women dealt with this situation, gives me more tools in my tool belt to use for my own life and my own experiences.
Exactly. And I think the other thing where I learned a lot for my job and career-wise is I've just had always some very close male friends at work who then, if you're, on a good friendship level, they casually mentioned that they either just asked for pay rise or that they asked for something else. And I was like, you did what? Really? And then you kind of see, well, that's what others are doing. So I should probably do the same because I think I do at least the same work or, if not better. So I think that's also something where you can kind of, if you know how other people behave in your work environment, you can kind of see, is there something I'm missing out on just because I didn't ask for something or because I didn't do that one presentation? So I do think, having some close male friends can really also make you more understand how things work at your workplace.
Right.
And then decide, do I adjust or do I try and make the workplace adjust, if that makes sense?
Exactly. I mean, I think it works in both ways. At the beginning, you have to adjust, and then when you know where you're at, I think you can, shape and form the workplace to your own
Exactly.
needs, or at least try to do so. You will not lose anything if you're doing so. You're not a whistleblower or anything like that, so you can try for sure. So trying. Just saying out loud what you want, having male friends, communication, knowing your workplace, like how politics work, or like how the environment works, and then take advantage of it. Did I do a right summary?
Yeah. And I think one last thing on that, I do think it's important to, if you are progressing, to not forget that. So I've been reading a lot and doing a workshop on unconscious bias, which is, not just related to gender, obviously, but also minorities, or, there's so many areas where unconscious bias is like important. But that really made me think, like, I also sometimes underestimate a woman, or I underestimate someone from different groups. So I think that's also really important to keep in mind, that when you progress, to not leave kind of everyone else behind. And that doesn't mean favorism. That just means actively evaluating what kind of stereotypes you have, or what kind of biases you have up front, whether you're kind of fair to everyone. Because I think that's something that a lot of people sometimes say, oh, I can't be biased, like I'm a woman, or also men saying, I can't be biased, I have like this many female students that work on my PhD with me. And I think that's just not true, and it's not something, it doesn't make you an inherently bad person. I think everyone has these to some degree, but it's really important to actively evaluate this, and to then also take the right steps to kind of, when you see that, you kind of push fellow women or fellow minorities, encourage them, and to kind of give them also an idea of what you learned, and give them some ideas of what you'd suggest. So I have this one friend at work, and she's great, and she's literally sometimes going like, well, by the way, I think you should ask for pay rise, because she knows it's such a big problem for women. So she's just really open about it. I'm like, this is so good to hear from someone who's higher up, and who encourages you actively to do that without you even asking for advice.
Yes, each one teach one, as
exactly.
I love it. Denzel Washington is one of the motivational speech that is somewhere in YouTube. So each one teach one. 100%. I think you really thank you for adding this amazing piece at the end, because I think it was also a reminder for me. 100%, we all have stereotypes. I mean, if you were in a city, or like in a village, you're watching TV, there are stereotypes everywhere, and unfortunately it's somewhere on your conscious and subconscious, and so that's why I hate saying oh, French people are like, or oh, women are like, this. I hate making generalization, because for me, I know like who am I do I know like all women and all French people? Well, this statement is false, so I can't make it. But it is so true. I think, I love this piece of advice. If you are in a position of learn something, or you're seeing an injustice, or something that is that can be improved, 100% sharing it, because sharing is caring. I love this sentence. It's so true.
Yeah, definitely. And I also think, just like, I was really shocked once. I had a fellow student, a woman, and she was saying, oh, because people got into the PhD, and then there were like, I think 3 women and the rest is men. And she was like, well, I mean, the women only got in because they were women. And I was like, wait, what did you mean? And it was like, wow, a woman saying that. It's not like that's a male thing to say necessarily. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, why do you get that idea? And I was like, well, this goes based on grades. It's not like, and I think seeing that really made me think about, the kind of the idea that some people have also around positive discrimination, where it's like, well, you don't just implement things to push people no matter what. It's more like people are disadvantaged or have a harder time to get into certain positions, and then you want to kind of level the playing field, but it's not about like advantaging it to one side or another.
Right.
So I think that's also important to keep in mind.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. 100%. Understanding the context
Exactly.
of what you say and like what you do. 100%. I love it. Okay. It's really, really great conversation, Eva. Anything that you want to add for women to smash it in a man's world? Like, if you had one advice to give, what would it be from everything that you said?
Ooh, that's a tough question.
And that's a tough question. I love it.
I would just say be proactive, and also don't never feel afraid of asking for advice. Like, find someone you know and ask them about it, no matter who, no matter from which background.
Right.
But if you have a question around something, look for someone, because 100% someone is going to have the same issue that you have or went through it. And I think it will give you so much A, support, and B, also ideas of how you can improve and challenge yourself.
I love it. Be loud. Be like Fatima, your coach now, but only when it matters. This is, the input of Eva, and I love it. You don't have to be loud all the time.
Well, you can if that's you, right? But you don't have to consistently like change yourself.
It's too exhausting. It's too exhausting to be loud all the time. But yeah, I mean, you said that, I said when I introduced you, and you talked about your initiative. Do you want to tell us more about it, like a few words about it, so people know?
Definitely. So I think we're quite a young organization. We were established a year and a half ago, and so we're continuously evolving, obviously, but so we have kind of three main pillars. So we want to inform about gender inequality, because we were like, there's still not that much information around economics in particular, how unequal it still is. So we actually just launched our Women in Economics Index of 2020 that tracks gender inequality across all continents. So also split up by continent and by area, where we just look at the share of women in leading positions. Then we want to obviously connect. So we're starting a peer mentorship network where we can connect, people that have questions, etc., and also just want to facilitate kind of a wider dialogue. And then the other big strand we do is empowerment. So we want to highlight successful women economists. We want to give them a platform. We're interviewing women that we find very inspiring, or that have done research on something. And for instance, currently we're working on a section on intersectionality with other organizations, because we want to highlight that, especially I think in Europe or Western economies, that, feminism shouldn't be white feminism, but it should be a feminism for all women. Yeah. So we try to kind of empower all communities and everyone. We have a variety of kind of empowerment strands, but it's a lot about highlighting either issues or successful women economists to kind of show what great things we're doing in econ and in the world.
Right, 100%. I mean, they started to make these movies about women, participating in the space. I loved it. We just need more and more cultural and knowledge and examples that feeds the idea of this is happening, this is happening, and it needs to happen more because it's good for the society. So it's 100%. That's amazing, the job that you're doing.
Thank you.
If you're a woman in economics listening right now and you don't know the initiative, go and check it out.
Sign up. We have a newsletter.
Exactly, get the newsletter. We're gonna share anyway all the links and everything. If people want to reach you, ask you a question, do you have like social media, anything?
Yeah, so I think you can definitely find me on LinkedIn via my name, and otherwise also you can just write me an email to Eva, so my first name, at womenineconomics.com. So that should also do. Looking forward to any kind of feedback or new contributions.
Thank you so much, Eva, for your time, for your knowledge, your experience. You definitely were an inspiration today for me on a personal level. I love meeting people making things happen around the world, because nothing happens without action. And that's why I'm going to push everybody that listens to this episode to take something that we shared and apply it to your own life. Because if it stays in the podcast or if it stays in your head, well, it doesn't matter that you listen to this episode or like 1,000 hours of podcast episodes. You have to do the change, and it starts with you, as Eva said. Everything starts with you. And yeah, so the more people awaken, the more women awaken and just, talk about their issues, challenge, stereotypes and cultural stigma. I think it's super important that we do that, because this is the only way change happens, right? So I want to thank you again, and
thank you so much.
And I will let everybody know your information and where to reach out to you. Okay,
perfect. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this new episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. It's really, really inspiring to meet women like Eva. And again, I want to push you to just, do the work yourself. It starts with you. Do not forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review if you're listening on Apple Podcast or Google Podcast. And I'll talk to you in the next episode. Thank you so much. Bye.